Welcome, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. I just want to remind everybody that this Lunch and Learn is brought to you by family partners of Morris and Sussex counties. Right here, this is your host, Patricia Houston, and today we have our special guest, Davey from Benny's Bodega. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here with us.
No problem. My pleasure. I'm glad to be here and share the Benny's Bodega story with everybody.
We are glad to hear that. Ben, we're gonna have like an overview in relation to your services and the resources that you guys have in there. So we're happy to share everything that you guys are doing there. So let's just start by understanding what is Benny's Bodega.
Yeah, great. So Benny's Bodega falls under the category of being a pantry. However, we like to think of ourselves as much more than a pantry and rather more of an experience. And what I mean by that is Benny's Bodega is a 501c3 nonprofit, but we operate more like a store, and we're set up like a store. And in our store or bodega, and in our bodega or store is clothes, food, perishable, non-perishable, cleaning supplies, hygiene supplies, and baby supplies, your formula, your food, diapers and wipes, and some baby clothes. So we have those items in our bodega set up like a store. So people who are employed, people who are on disability, and people who are over the age of 62 can come in and shop for the things that they need, you or I would at a regular store. Benny's Bodega has, at this moment, no paid employees, and we operate 100% on volunteers. So every dollar or everything that gets donated to the bodega goes right back into the community to service the aforementioned population.
Thank you for sharing that information. And because we know that you are involved in the community, we would like to know a little bit about yourself. We kind of went straight to Benny's Bodega because I know everybody's here to learn about Benny's Bodega, but we also want to know about you.
Well, let me just start by saying now, most of the time when you see me, you don't see me with a hat on. And normally I have a nice haircut and a nicely shaped up beard. It just so happens you guys caught me in the midst of a little bet going on in which I was encouraged to grow my hair out. Now, if you know me, I don't have the nicest of hair and it's like all over the place. So it's better if we all just, it's better for all of us if I have my hat on. So that's why I have my hat on, and that's why I'm covered up a little bit. But normally I'm a little bit more put together. So let me say that first off. Second off, I do the bodega on my free time, quote unquote. My 9-to-5 job and what pays the bills for me is I work for the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, DCP&P, the Child Protection Office. I am a resource development specialist, which is the fancy way of saying I am the link from the community to the DCP&P office. I do a bunch of other things internally, but that is essentially what I do. I'm also an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, and I have a small counseling practice actually on Spring Street, right down the street from the bodega. So all my stuff is kind of in Newton, which kind of allows me to be flexible and to kind of get everywhere that I need to be. So I do a little everything. I have a passion for helping people. I find that I'm pretty good at connecting people in the community. So passion is in one of my strengths. As you can probably tell, it's kind of very uncomfortable for me to talk about myself because you hear me stuttering and whatnot, but I'll answer the question. So that's just a little bit about myself. I live in Sussex County. So I'm a resident, I'm a community member, and the bodega was just kind of started as a passion of mine. I found out that I was pretty good at connecting people. I've always wanted to help people. So when you kind of put the two together and you kind of get flexibility from your 9-to-5 job, it kind of leads to certain things. And the bodega, if I was being 100% honest with everybody, was not something that, that I wanted to do, or it was in the back of my head that this is what I want to do. When I got an internal promotion at DCP&P, like I said, I was the link to community, and I started engaging people and talking to people, and I turned the back part of my cubicle into a bodega. And from there, soon after that, the pandemic hit, and I realized that there was a need right in the community. So we made Benny's Bodega official. We got the 501c3 nonprofit status. And then the pandemic hit. And originally, like I said, we were for employed, disabled, or people over the age of 62. But when the pandemic hit, we kind of changed a little bit because the situation was affecting everybody. So we started delivering food. We started making the bodega out of our house and our garage and our back portion of our house. And then as time grew and as people started supporting us and we started getting our mission out there and what we were trying to do, the support that we've received has been overwhelming. And the bodega has only been in existence for 3.5 years. And in that time, we've moved from my cubicle in the back part of the office to our house, to a 3rd-story attic or room in Andover, to being on Spring Street in Newton for almost, April will be 2 years. So we haven't been in existence for more than almost 4 years. And much of that time has been right on the center in Newton. And it's been because of the support that we receive from the community. So that's a little bit about myself, a little bit about how the bodega was created and started. We have a really, now people ask me all the time, well, how do you do it? How do you do it? Right? Because I identified, I have a counseling practice, and then I do the bodega for fun. And the reality is people ask me, well, how do you do it all the time? And the response to that is I have a really, really great wife. And then I have a really, really great support team. And the team underneath me, we work really well together. They support the mission. They're in agreement with what we're trying to do. And the only reason why I'm able in the bodega exists and operates the way that it does is because of my volunteers and because the team that I have in place supports us and believes in the mission. And that is really what drives the bodega. It's a community-based organization. It's a community-based nonprofit. Maybe one day we'll have a paid employee, but right now it's all volunteer-based. Everything in the bodega is obtained through donations or purchased with money that was donated. So it becomes this whole, and our motto is people helping people. And that's really what it is. It's a collection of people with a passion to help people and servicing a population of people that does not have a lot of resources. Now, I identified before that the population we serve are people who are employed. Well, the fancy way of saying it is the ALIS population. The ALIS population is an acronym, and it stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. And that's a fancy way of saying that you're employed and you're working and you have a full-time job, but you're still unable to pay your rent or just have the basic needs that some of us may take for granted or some of us don't think about. So we try to be a resource for that population specifically. And in doing that, if you prove that or if you're able to demonstrate that you're employed, we allow that ALIS population to come into the bodega 2 times a month to shop. And in doing that, they can save themselves hundreds of dollars on food, clothes, and cleaning and hygiene supplies, and then take that money and maybe save it and put it towards their rent or put it towards their car or put it towards something that they need to help take that next step forward. So I know I kind of went off because I was kind of talking about myself, but you see, I got a passion for the bodega and I can just kind of go different ways with it and talk about it in many different ways. But we try to be a resource for the ALIS population, and we try to be a resource for the people who are quote unquote trying, but are still struggling to have their basic needs met.
No, Ben, I appreciate that you took the time to go over all of that because you see how many providers and families are in here. So everybody is in here because they want to hear the whole story behind, and also they want to know about you. So thank you very much for sharing that. So what is the process to get involved with Ben in Bodega?
It's a great question. So we get that asked a lot, and because identified the ALIS population, people are employed, people are disabled, and people over the age of 62. Now, we do ask for documentation or proof of one of those categories, but what we don't do is we don't bust your chops over that proof. And what that looks like is yes, we need proof of employment, and that proof can be many different things. It can be proof of a direct deposit from your bank account that you could pull up on your phone. It can be a screenshot of a letter from your employee. It could be a screenshot of a pay stub. It could be really anything. And we don't ask for paper copies. We don't ask for anything. We just ask for proof that you're working full-time or part-time, right? And then again, like I said, that can be anything. For proof of disability, it gets a little tricky because disabilities can be taken away. Money can be a little tricky. So what we ask for, and we provide instructions when you're at the bodega, is we just ask for a printout of the awards letter. If you're on disability and you receive disability stipend, then you've received a letter or have the ability to print out a letter or screenshot a letter that says you've been awarded this stipend and this money for your disability. Now, if you print that out or have a screenshot of that, that's all we ask. And then for over age 62, you just have to prove that you were born in whatever year 62 equates to be. Now, when you come in and you check in and you show us that verification, you get a picture taken of you, and then you get a Benny's card. That Benny's card is a scan card, a similar card that you'd get at the supermarket, a gym, or anywhere else. And that card has to come with you every single time that you come back to the bodega, because that card is a scan card, and that's our way of keeping everything organized and keeping it tracked. Because like I said, people who are employed can come in 2 times a month, and people on disability and people over the age of 62 can only come in 1 time a month. So that's how we separate, and that's how we differentiate, is we have that Benny's card. That first Benny's card you get is on the bodega. We give it to you for free. But if something happens and you lose it, it gets stolen, it mysteriously gets up and walks away, then that's on you, and it's $20 to replace. And we do that, and we know, and a lot of people, the feedback that we have is $20 is steep, and we understand that, and it is steep for all of us and a lot of us. But we ask people to have a level of accountability, right? You wouldn't take $20 and just throw it out in the sidewalk, right? The $20 goes in a wallet, it goes somewhere, and you're vigilant over what happens to that $20 cash. Well, we ask the same accountability with the Benny's card, because like I said, everything is received and obtained through community donations. And if we're busting our humps to get out there and ask somebody to pay for your first Benny's card, well, then we only think it's responsible of us to ask them to hold on to it. And if for whatever reason they can't hold on to it, well, then we ask that it's on them to supply the new card that they need and to pay for it, because we have to pay for them, if that makes sense. So after you check in, you get your scan card, you bring that scan card in every time, you bring your documentation in every time, because sometimes employment fluctuates like disability. So that stuff comes in every time. We check it, and afterwards you go by the front desk and you're in the bodega. And when you're in the bodega, it is like being in a little supermarket. There's food to the left, clothes to the right, and there's a counter in the back where you have to engage a volunteer and ask for certain hygiene items and cleaning items, but you're in the bodega to shop. People may talk to you and they may engage you just to see how you're doing, just to have a conversation. And there's music playing, and it's an environment. And that's why we like to say it's an experience rather than coming to just a food pantry. We don't hand you a bag of stuff that we think that you should eat. We allow you to take what you want. We allow you to take what you need, but we just ask that you be cognizant of that, the fact that there are other people coming in behind you that need stuff too. So while it may be, you may be needy, we just ask that it doesn't turn into greedy. You know what I mean? And sometimes I would say 98% of the time, people are more than respectful of our wishes and our rules and our requirements. And of course, you get some people who, you know, take a little bit too much, but that's why we have volunteers there. They engage them politely and they say, hey, you know, can we put something back? We have other people come in. And there's never, ever been an issue with anybody saying, no, this is my food I'm taking, or anything like that. Normally, it's just a misinterpretation of the situation, or a misinterpretation really of the situation, and we move on accordingly. But we do want people to come in and shop, and we do want people to feel like they are at a supermarket. And we ask that people kind of decrease their pride and accept help. Well, we want to provide them with an environment that allows them to feel that type of way. And that's why we allow people to shop. That's why we call it Benny's Bodega and not Benny's Food Pantry or whatever. You know, when you say bodega, right, it brings about a different thought process and a different connotation than it does if you said food pantry or social services or whatever it is that other people say. So we say bodega, and we call it a different name, because if you said you were just going to the bodega, nobody would think anything of it. But if you said you were going to the food pantry, again, it brings about a different thought process. So you're coming to the bodega and you're coming to shop like you would at a different, like we would at a food store or a market. And then from there, you feel just like anybody else, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve, and why we're set up like a store, why we call it Benny's Bodega, why we want to be referenced as more of an experience than a food pantry, because you won't, and proudly, you won't find another resource like us. You just won't. There's not too many places who are set up like we are. There's not too many places who are organized like we are. But with that said, we also have high expectations of the environment that we're trying to create. So we feel like we've created a good environment where people can come in and shop. We service over 400 and closer to 500 families a month, which equates to 1,000 people, over 1,000 people if it's on average 3 to 4 people per family. Last month, in the month of December, 850 people swiped a card at Benny's Bodega. Now, obviously, some of them were twice, right? So it's not a true count how many people came in, but 850 cards were swiped when we came in. And if you really think about that, that is a lot of families in Sussex County, not having their basic needs met, but now having their basic needs met because of the bodega, because of the community, and because of the way that we're set up. So we feel like we're meeting the need of working families and families who aren't disabled and some of the older people in the community. Sussex County has a very high population of people over the age of 62. And that population, we found, struggles silently. They're very proud and they don't want to say a word to nobody. And that's why we're kind of open to that population, because we want to try to break that stigma. We understand that a lot of them are on fixed incomes, and New Jersey is an expensive state to live. So if we can decrease some of their pride and get them to come in for the bodega, well, then it extends that monthly money that they have, and maybe they can live a little easier. Maybe they can buy something for their grandkid. Maybe they can go out with the girls at Panera Bread or something, you know what I mean? And their life becomes a little bit better, you know?
Thank you, Ben, for that information. And I know that you already went over that, but for further clarification, I just want to ask you, are there any costs involved once the family go there?
Nope. Everything in our store or bodega is for free. Nobody will ever be charged a dime for anything that they need. And we want it like that. That's the way it has to be. And again, we found that the people in our community are very generous. We take care of the people in our community. And because of that, and because of that philosophy, the bodega is never really short on anything. You know, you run into certain days where, we had, 30 something families come in on Monday, and we had dish soap and laundry soap and all that in there for them. But then if we can't re-up for the next day and we're open on a Tuesday, then sometimes the hygiene and the cleaning supplies are a little bare. But for all intents and purposes, you come into the bodega, you're getting everything that you need for free. You can literally, with the cost of food and other stuff, you could literally save yourself $100 to $200+ a month by coming into the bodega just one time.
And Ben, what are some of the challenges that you see families facing as to why they had to utilize Benny's Bodega, in addition to the one that you previously mentioned?
Yeah, so what we see a lot of time is that so New Jersey just raised the minimum wage rate, right? And it's great, and it needs to happen, but it's still not a livable wage. If you're working 40 hours on that wage, it's still not a livable wage in New Jersey. Right. So what we see and then on the flip side of that, employers, and I'll just use Walmart. I'm not saying anything bad about Walmart, but for our conversation, we'll just use Walmart as an example. If somebody is working at Walmart, the supervisor or management may have a difficult time giving them 40 hours. Right. So if I can't work 40 hours, I'm not a full-time employee. I'm not able to have full-time employee benefits, your medical insurance, your dental insurance, your other things. And on top of that, schedules are only made 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of time. So it's hard to navigate 2 jobs if employers need your schedule ahead of time to create their schedule. So what we see is employers not giving 40 hours a week, or not being able to work with a person on their schedule because there's 2 jobs, there's kids, there's other requirements, and schedules cannot be made, or because of certain times they need. It's just hard to manage, because a lot of times people say, well, get another job. Well, it's just not that easy. Schedules have to align, supervisors have to align. There's a lot that has to align in order for that to happen. So you see that. We see the hourly wage not being high enough. You see some of the jobs being taken over by animation, right? So people are not having the same, like at McDonald's, right? You can go in and you can use a kiosk, and that takes away from somebody working. So we see some of a reduction in some of the jobs that people used to work. But really what we see is people, New Jersey being a very, very expensive state to live, rent being very, very high, mortgages being very high, and just the cost of living being in New Jersey. And unless you make, six figures plus, New Jersey is a tough place to go sledding. It really is. When you factor in, you need a phone, you need electricity, you need a place to live. Sussex County is very rural, so a lot of us have a car payment. You know what I mean? So when you start adding up all the things, unless you got a lot of money coming in, you probably find yourself in a paycheck to paycheck scenario. A lot of us. And just for frame of reference, Benny's Bodega has a Benny in the Rent program, which is currently running right now. And it's a rent program that we supply rent and mortgage to working families for 3 months, 5 families for 3 months. And the reason why I bring that up is because the application deadline is the 15th of this month, and it's been going on since the beginning of just December. So for about 45 days, the whole application process is open. The point, again, in me bringing this up is we read through, we've gotten 60 plus applications already. Those applications are not from people who are unemployed. They're from teachers. They're from people who are working at Lowe's. They're from people who are taking care of us when we go out to eat. These are regular, everyday Americans, quote unquote. And these are the people who are struggling. On top of the people who are maybe a struggle with addiction or homelessness or whatever. Yes, of course, those people need resources. But the people who we see coming into the bodega are your everyday people. The people who take care of us, the people who service us, the people who work at Lowe's, your Home Depots, your Walmarts, your waiters, your waitresses, your teachers, and in some instances, your paraprofessionals at school. So it's your everyday people that you might not think of somebody needing assistance, but we're finding out in 2023, those are the people who exactly need assistance.
Thank you for highlighting all of that. And Ben, please highlight also any difficulties that you see families, let's say like transportation. Are there any other additional?
So for us, we have, it's not necessarily transportation, but we have a language barrier because we do get a lot of Hispanic population come into the bodega, and we use Google Translate, and we have maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 people who can communicate in Spanish, but they're not always there. And we try to have printouts, and we try to do certain things to mitigate some of that. But that's definitely a barrier for us. If I was able to speak fluently in Spanish, it would be a lot easier. I'm not. But there is definitely a barrier with that population because too, if they come in and they don't understand, because a lot of times they are meeting our requirements, we're just not able to communicate to them what exactly they need to show us. You know what I mean? And then on the flip side of that, sometimes, and we found this with the Hispanic population, is that they're working as laborers and they don't have proof of employment because it's under the table or it's cash, or their employer is only picking them up, twice a week or once every other week or something like that. So we do run into that. And I would say that's probably one of our bigger barriers. And we're working through it. Again, we do handouts. We try to communicate with Google Translate. We try to have that population feel more comfortable so they do want to come in. And again, we don't bust chops. So if they're just able to show us something, we allow them to come in. And at the worst of it, if we're unable to communicate something, a lot of times we can at least say, hey, what do you need? And then we provide them with a bag or 2 of food, some clothes, so they're not without. And then we always have a list of resources in the community that we then provide them so they can go to other avenues. But if you're speaking about barriers, communication with the Hispanic population is definitely one of our barriers.
And thank you for highlighting that. And Ben, if someone would like to volunteer or donate, what is the process to do that, or who they need to get in contact with?
Great question. So anyone who wants to volunteer is just send us an email over at bennysbodega@gmail.com. We have a volunteer coordinator. His name is Craig. He puts everybody and gets everybody situated. It's really easy, but we do have different levels of volunteering. There are people who come to the store and work the store. We partner with Wegmans down in Morris County, so we have weekly pickups that we do. Saturday and Sunday. We pick up food every Saturday and Sunday, every morning, and we drive down, we load up a truck, and we come back, and then we redistribute that food throughout the week. And it's great food. It's meat, it's individual meals, it's vegetables. It's really, really, really good, as we joke in the Bodega, rich people food, because that's really what it is. And to be honest with you, it's really good stuff, and they're very generous to us. And we pick up every Saturday and Sunday. My point isn't bringing that up, is we have volunteers every Saturday and Sunday go down, pick it up, and bring it back. So you can volunteer there. I'm literally renting a truck tomorrow, taking off work. My boss doesn't know yet, but taking off work and going to Jersey City, because we just connected with another food distributor, and we'll be picking up pallets of food and bringing that back to Sussex County. So we need volunteers for that. We need volunteers in the store to operate the store. We need volunteers to go through clothes. We do a tremendous amount with adolescents and kids, because we love getting kids involved. My kids are involved. Our friends' kids are involved. We get as many kids involved and volunteering at the Bodega as possible, because really that's how you affect change, right? And really, if you could get the younger generation involved and get them understanding empathy and struggle and all the things that we may understand, well, then you're really starting to make a positive impact on the community. So we do a lot with kids. We do a lot with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, National Honor Society, all those things. And if you're interested, all you literally have to do is send an email over to bennysbodega at gmail.com, and then talk a little bit about how you want to volunteer. And then from there, we can have a little bit of a dialogue, and then get you situated with whatever tier you want to be volunteering in. If you want to donate, all you have to do is bring it to one of the days and times that we're open. We're open 5 days a week for a total of 19 hours. Mondays, 12 to 3, Tuesday, 10 to 3, Wednesday nights, 3 to 6, Thursdays, 12 to 5. We're closed on Friday. We're open Saturday mornings, 9 to 12, and we're closed on Sundays. So any one of those times that we're open, you just bring on by donations. Volunteers will be there with a smile to greet you, and we put it up in our store. And it's really that easy. We try to make it simple. We try to make it simple for people. We want people to help, but we don't want to make it difficult for people to help. We don't take any household items. We don't take any furniture. We stick to clothes, food, cleaning supplies, hygiene supplies, and baby supplies.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody that Ben's contact information is going to be in the description below the video. So all that information is going to be there. And we are going to move soon to the Q&A session. But before we move to that session, Ben, any final thoughts that you would like to share with us in here?
So we just do just one thing, and we do a lot of our stuff and our marketing and our mission, and we get it out there. We do a lot of it on social media, and we have a pretty strong following on social media, but obviously things can always get improved and things can always get better. So if you don't follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, please check us out, search us, follow us, friend us, whatever it is that people do on social media, because that's really how we get our mission out there. That's really how we garner more support. And that's really our number one way of spreading love and trying to get as many people aware of us and donating to us as possible.
Thank you very much. And with that, we are going to conclude this part of the presentation. Again, I just want to thank every single person in here. And Ben, again, thank you very much, because I know when I reach out to you right away, you say yes. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to move to our Q&A session.